So here we are, we're mid-morning Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year. Most of us are fasting from dinner last night, and we may be starting to feel a little bit hungry or thirsty, but we're hanging in there. This morning's Haftarah, which we're about to read, picks up on the kind of fast that God truly desires. But know this, fasting on Yom Kippur is not as obvious as one might think. Nowhere in the Torah does it explicitly command it. Instead, the verses teach us to afflict ourselves without defining the nature of this affliction. I guess as a Jewish people, to keep us from food is the greatest definition of affliction, but it is not abundantly clear from the Torah. So how does afflicting ourselves through fasting help us do teshuvah? Many assume that fasting is a kind of form of self-punishment, a way of balancing the scales for overindulgence or rule breaking. But I do not think so. For me, this understanding doesn't truly lend itself to true and lasting personal growth and psychological transformation, which is what we're after on Yom Kippur. The Talmud alludes to another approach that I find more helpful. In the section dealing with fasting in the Talmud, the rabbis note that Yom Kippur is referred to as a Shabbat Shabbaton. It's like the biggest Shabbat, the biggest day of rest. And from this perspective, when we abstain from eating and drinking, we're actually taking a Shabbat, a kind of rest or pause from these activities. And the discomfort that we feel on Yom Kippur is not actually a direct consequence of abstaining from physical pleasure of eating and drinking, but rather from the psychic pain of having made mistakes. And when we act in ways that betray our inner goodness or contradict the essence of who we really are. And so while that kind of pain is always present normally, when we eat and we drink and we do other pleasurable things in life, it's easy to cover that up. But today we take a pause on those activities so that we can just feel. And sometimes that feeling can be unpleasant. So this is the kind of affliction, ultimately, whether you're fasting or you're not fasting, that I think God wants from us and that we hear about in our Haftarah this morning. The kind of fast that isn't about some kind of grand win of our will to not eat, but rather the kind of fast that allows us to feel the fullness of our yearning for tshuva and ultimately change and make our lives and make the world a better place. So we're going to continue with the Haftarah, page 284.